Welcome to The Pillars, the podcast of the 363rd ISR Wing of the United States Air Force. I'm Chaplain Jim Bridgham.
And I'm Dr. Jerry Walker.
On each episode of The Pillars, we find a brief resilience topic so you can practically fix any potential roadblock you encounter and finish a better wingman, airman, and leader. Now, today's episode is going to be a really difficult one in some ways, but I think a really rewarding one in many, many ways. So, Dr. Walker?
Yeah, that's right. We are very blessed and honored to have the commander of the 51st Intelligence Squadron at Shaw, Lieutenant Colonel Jason Colcher, with us here today. And he has very graciously agreed to discuss with us a recent, very difficult situation that he's experienced, he and his family, and talk to us about how he used a number of good resilience and coping skills to get past that and to keep powering on and to continue to excel in his position of extreme responsibility. So with that said, Colonel Colcher, please share what you're comfortable telling us.
Yeah, no, first, thank you for having me.
Thanks, sir.
So about 6 weeks after I took command last July, towards the end of August, my wife was 26 weeks pregnant. She got very ill, went to the hospital, and my son Andrew was born early, and the next day he passed away. And just the loss, the feeling of pain, the feeling of not knowing how I'm going to go on, not wanting to get up out of bed every morning, and then just having to take care of my two young daughters as well as my wife as she kind of recovered and kind of was able to get back on her feet, and so that we could deal with the pain of loss and the emotional pain together was definitely absolutely difficult.
How did you deal with it in those first few weeks with your family, with your daughters, your wife?
Yeah, so first let me say my leadership all the way up the chain was absolutely incredible. You know, as a tenant unit here at Shaw Air Force Base and being a part of the 365th group at Nellis, 363rd Wing at Langley, you know, we're a tenant unit, so we're kind of here in many ways alone and unafraid. Mm-hmm. And my boss immediately said, take off. You come back to work when you're ready to come back to work. You focus on your family, which really helped. And so I was able to kind of give my all to my family to try and help get us all back onto a road to recovery. However, my squadron was absolutely incredible. Like they really...
Your second family.
My second family, my Air Force family. They, my first sergeant, I can't say a million great things about him. He really took care of us. The squadron with the meal trains, the flowers, the cards. My 18 deployed Warhawks, you know, sent flowers and cards, and really, they, you know, when you're away from, you know, everybody else, all your family and the support system you normally have. I mean, they really had only been here for 7 weeks. They rallied around it, and they took incredible care of us so that I could take care of my family.
That's amazing, and I'm so glad you're able to take that time off, because we all need to take time to grieve. When we lose somebody important to our lives, we have to allow ourselves to experience the heartbreak, the sadness, those types of emotions. And it takes time, and it's a painful process, but it's necessary, not for us to move on, but for us to be able to move forward and to continue to excel in everything else that we do in our relationships and our job and so forth. And I'm sure your family really needed you at that point in time. Can you tell us a bit about how this experience impacted you guys, or how you rallied around each other?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, we had heard, you know, the statistics of, you know, how many families and couples end up divorced or separated when you experience the loss of a child. And and for me and my wife, we did not want to become a statistic, right? And so we made a pact to each other that we were going to stay strong and we were going to be a stronger family because of it. We started to use a lot of the resources that are presented and provided to you by the Air Force. You know, even today, I still have my every other week appointment at the mental health clinic here at Shaw. The 20th Force Support Squadron took incredible care of our entire family and just the things that they have available to them. To be honest, I lost my way with the gym, right? I probably became the most unhealthy that I had ever been with regards to working out, eating healthy, eating right, and taking care of myself, because I was so focused on taking care of my squadron when I got back to work. Just trying to find the energy to take care of my family, just trying to find the energy to get out of bed in the morning. or not want to just go home at night and take a shower. And many nights I'd get home from work and I'd cry. I'd go in the shower and I'd cry, and that was my way to kind of deal with everything and get through the next day.
I think it's great that you're sharing these things with us, because that is actually a normal and very common reaction.
And one way to look at it is we only have so much energy in a day. And when we experience a loss like this, you could view it as almost a catabolic effect, not on your body, which is breaking down, as opposed to anabolic growing up. And we have to realize that when you're focused at your work and you're doing something like command, or you're supervising others and you're taking care of your family, something is going to fall off. And you have to give yourself grace to realize you can pick it back up. But at this moment, what's important is to focus on the task at hand. In this case, you had your presence with your family, you're taking care of them. You have your presence with your squadron, who went through all kinds of things during that time. And then lastly, you put everyone before yourself. So the service, your family, etc. Then you can eventually pick this up. It's not an excuse, it's just a reality. There's only so much energy to go around. In command, so you come back to the squadron, you've been there for 6 weeks, this event happens, and what was it like taking command again, like walking back into that commander's office?
To be honest, it was no different, right? When I came into work, I just felt like the airmen in my team, the amount of support that they had provided me and what they did to take care of my family. When I showed back up to work and I walked in, it was all business. And, I was doing everything I could to make sure that the entire leadership team cared for them, provided what they needed, took care of our deployed members. And yeah, there was times where I would shut the door to my office, right, and I'd have a moment or two to myself, kind of regroup, get my emotions back in together, call my wife, make sure that she was doing okay that day. And there were times where maybe I might have to leave in the middle of the day to go home and pick my daughter from school, or to take care of my wife for a little bit, and then come back to work. And the entire team, right, we just kind of all took care of each other, and things happened. And for me, I would have never thought that I would have to go through something like that. And then a few months ago, I had a captain go through the same thing.
Yep.
And so for us, I think it gave me and my wife an opportunity to not only kind of how do you go through something like that, but as you walk back in and take command again, and then you have a captain go through the same thing, right? Now it's utilize our experience to help her and her husband kind of go through that same loss.
And one spiritual concept that comes up in many faith traditions is that when we go through something difficult, the purpose of it is to be able to learn the lessons to help others, which I know you already have done. What's some advice you could give to maybe that supervisor, that commander, that airman who is going through this and they don't know how to put their life back together? I mean, maybe they're listening to this, they found it on iTunes, they're searching for it. What advice would you give?
Yeah, I would say there's two angles to look at that, right? It's the individual member that's going through that pain and the loss and the hurt, and then also the supervisor or commander that's leading that member that's going through that loss. I would say from the individual that's gone through it, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be hurt. It's okay to go through the worst thing that you could ever go through, which is the loss of a child. But every day is a new day, and although it takes a long time, in our case it's been over 10 months, and there's still some days that are extremely hard to get through, and there's other days that fortunately I have two little girls that I can I know that I need to be there for them and raise them. And when you come back to work, right, take advantage of all the resources that are available. I can't tell you how much that's benefited me and my wife and my family to utilize not only the resources the FSS has, but the medical group, downtown, and the chaplains and everybody else. I think that has helped us immensely get through this and continue to get through this, because every day is a new day, and it's only been 10 months. It's still fresh and still hurts.
And that's something that we hear from a lot of people, is that they'll go through something like this, they'll lose somebody significant, and then they'll find that the grief doesn't seem to ever leave them. Things get better, like you said, time moves on, and they start to get better, but sometimes it still hurts, and it still hurts a lot. And so, like what you're saying, sir, I think that's a good message, is that there isn't a prescribed timeline for this. It's not like you take a few weeks or a few months and then all of a sudden you're done with it. And it can ebb and flow too, I'm sure. I mean, there are probably some days where you and your family are doing really well, and other times, perhaps on the anniversary of his death, or just certain recollections that happen from time to time really hit you to the core. And so how do you deal during those times?
So there isn't a moment in the day that doesn't go by that I don't think about him and think about what could be. Driving down the road and seeing little boys out in the yard playing football, thinking about, right, that could have been my son. It's it never goes away. The pain, the grief, knowing how to deal with it or get through it will be forever. There's also times, right, where I think, right, I might be having a better day, and I smile because, right, I do have a son. He's just not here with me, but I do have him. Just not the way that we want.
And I think it's so important to recognize that he'll always be an impact on your life. He's always going to be there. And when we experience any kind of loss, again, as professionals in the Air Force, we expect any problem should be solved very quickly. And especially in Intel, it's like, well, I've got this problem set, I'm going to deal with it, I'm going to make a product and be good. We have to realize that this has a long-lasting impact on us and those around us. So whether you're a commander or someone in the same squadron or a group, don't expect someone to say, oh, hey, I'm good in a week or a month or 10 months or a year or years. This is a lifelong impact. But there's a positive impact to this in the long run. Like, you've learned how to get through such a difficult tragedy that now you can help others.
That's right. I think that's why it's absolutely important for, as we talked about earlier, but we didn't give an answer to, is the importance of supervisors and first sergeants and commanders and superintendents getting to know their people.
Yep.
Right. Everybody has differing levels of tragedy that they've been through, and it's getting to know them and really getting to know them of what they've been through and how you can best support them when they show up to your squadron or you show up brand new, and you got to take that time to really get to know them and understand what their needs are to make sure that they know that they're being taken care of.
That's excellent. Kind of along those same lines, sir, we talked in previous podcasts about something called post-traumatic growth. Unfortunately, a large number of our service members have experienced a type of traumatic situation which may or may not have been combat related, and they, right after that incident happens, they struggle and they have a hard time. But then, maybe a few weeks, months, or even years later, they learn something from that experience, or it leads them to become a better version of themselves, and they start to grow and become even stronger than they were prior to that. Can you tell us in what ways this has caused you or your family to grow stronger?
Yeah, I think first, most importantly, it has really brought together me and my wife and my kids to be a stronger knit group. Secondly, I haven't always been the best at balancing home and work life. Right, we always preach it, and I haven't always been the greatest at it. Fortunately, had a few leaders that have done it better, and I've been able to kind of learn from them. But I think that going through this has really made me focus on the balance.
Awesome.
And making sure that, not just for me, but making sure that my airmen know that you have to have a balance, and you need to dedicate your time to your family, particularly in a squadron like ours where our deployment tempo is so high, and you will never know when some sort of tragedy happens. And so you need to invest the time that you have with every single member of your family.
That's outstanding. And I do want to just commend you for what you've done with the 51st. In the midst of all this tragedy, you have a squadron that is amazingly tight-knit. They're growing. They win every award known to mankind. And they really do care about each other. And they demonstrate the wingman concept in a way that I have rarely seen in the last 15 years. So I just want to commend you for what you've done as a commander, sir. Thank you for what you've done, and thank you for all the efforts you've done to work on your family and yourself and on your squadron in the midst of this. You're really a credit of an example of what an Air Force officer should be.
I absolutely agree. And your willingness to talk about these difficult things and to tell your story in this way, I think, is a great model for your airmen and for any of the folks listening, to have that willingness to be vulnerable with folks and to share stories of hardship and how you've overcome them. That's actually really empowering. And honestly, it's the kind of leader that I think we all wish we had.
I totally agree.
And would follow in a heartbeat.
Any last, any statement, anything you'd like to ask of the audience before we close?
No, I would just say that I appreciate the opportunity to share our story. Me and my wife have really tried to, be there in different support groups and be more verbal about the things that we've been through, just so that if we can help even one or two or three others out there with what we've been going through, then I think it makes it all worthwhile.
And we want to thank you for listening to The Pillars, the podcast of the 363rd ISR Wing of the United States Air Force. I'm Chaplain Jim Bridgham.
And I'm Dr. Jerry Walker.
And I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jason Culture.
Until next time, if you need us, please reach out to us in the global address list. Finally, thank you for what you do for our nation. We hope you have a great day.